This is the Knights of the Round Table podcast, episode 16. I'm Jack Kaiser, and we are here. We're glad you're with us. Remember, you can find the links and clips to all our episodes across our social media platforms. Just search at BU Knights. We're talking to a lot of coaches right now. Just had Devaney Bovair from field hockey on last week. Students just wrapping up the school year. And today we've got another coach. It's Bellarmine head swim coach John Brucato on the pod. John, how you doing today?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's warm outside, so that always makes the spirits a little bit better, right?
Absolutely.
89 degrees, 88 degrees last couple of days, something like that.
We're getting up there.
Yeah, getting up there quick after it was like 40 not too long ago. So it's your off season right now, and it has been for a couple of months. What are you doing right now?
Wrapping up the school year, seeing a lot of our 5 men and 6 women graduate in a couple of days, and just chatting with them a lot, seeing where they're going, and wishing them well these next couple of days, and excited to see the direction they're going to be going.
Well, we were just talking before the podcast, and you said you went up to Covington to see Daniel Sims get sworn in as a police officer for the Covington Police Department. How
Correct.
Cool is that?
Yeah, it was really an honor to be there. Of course, he'll be going to Richmond, Kentucky for about, I believe, 3 months of training.
Yeah.
And then he'll be on the force. But, yeah, it was an honor to be up there with his family. Of course, his father, who is deceased, was a member of the police force, and I think that's a big part of the reason that he's going in that direction. But it was a really a big honor to be there. Yeah,
absolutely. And we also talked about just how big of a part you are in these students' lives as they make their transition as an 18-year-old coming in, 22, 23, sometimes 24 now with COVID and all that, coming out. And like, what type of pride do you take in seeing Daniel go to the police department, or all of your other graduates go off and do amazing things in the future?
Well, it's a tremendous amount of pride, because I think that, we're given student athletes out of high school, the growth that takes place, I think, over 4 years in college is tremendous. I think our job, our mission as coaches is just to help them along those steps, kind of show them what steps they need to take, right? To look at, help them get over some of the challenges, some of the hurdles that they're going to be faced with, and then certainly helping them with that decision process. But as a coach, you get to know your athletes, your student athletes, very intimately, and spending a lot of time with them. We don't have much of a choice there, but it's an honor to be able to do that.
I was going to ask about the Sims brothers at some point, and rightfully so. I mean, you look at the record book and all they've done, it's incredible. I mean, how'd you find these guys? Like, where'd they come from?
Well, Northern Kentucky,
yeah.
But honestly, they started looking at Bellarmine, I believe, their junior year. Daniel started off at Cumberland, and then decided to transfer about midway through his freshman year. It was interesting because I wasn't sure if the two of them really wanted to have that college experience together. But I think that was the path that they chose, and I think it worked out very well. So a little bit of it is they were certainly on our radar, my radar, knowing good quality swimmers coming out of that area. But at the same time, they were looking for a good fit, and Bellarmine kind of checked off a lot of those boxes for them.
You mentioned good quality swimmers and keeping an eye on recruits. Like, what exactly are you looking for in a recruit as a swimmer?
I think one is that athletes, as they progress and get better, that they have a real intimate knowledge of their sport. They know what it takes to continue to get better. So in swimming, it's a very technical sport. You're taking an activity that, the human doesn't naturally just go to water and say, all right, I'm going to move through the water as efficiently, as fast as I can. So it's a very technical sport. So I think having student athletes that know that it's a long process to continue to get better, and then the workload has to continue to increase over the years to get better, or they have to find different ways to get better. For example, strength training is a huge part of, I think, all of our athletes, our student athletes, getting better in their respective sports. But I think in swimming, we've seen a tremendous leap in the athleticism of our swimmers over the years. And I think that's why we continue to see the world records continue to drop. We continue to see college time standards to make NCAAs go faster or get faster. And we continue to see records drop year after year after year.
Are there any physical traits, are there any main physical traits that you look for in a recruit?
Long, lanky bodies kind of help. I mean, long levers. There's, being able to have long arms, and there's an interesting study, or what's the real important body type to have for a swimmer to be successful. And I think that one of the things they looked at with Michael Phelps, for example, is that he has this long torso and long arms, but he doesn't, from waist down, he's not as proportional. I don't know if that's exactly what we need. I've seen swimmers of all body types move fast through the water. So I think it's strength to body weight ratio that's important, and it's a certain efficiency that you have to develop. So knowing swimmers coming from various programs that have developed good technique, I think, is most important. Knowing that they're on a trajectory of swimming faster times through the course of their high school years is important as well. So sometimes I see swimming recruits will send me questionnaires, and I'll look at the times. And if there's a huge gap, their best times were maybe their sophomore years. And that might ring a little bit of a bell. We might be a little bit concerned there, but sometimes there's a lot of different things going on with that. But it's certainly helpful to see that an athlete, a student athlete, is continuing to improve all the way through their high school years, and you want to continue to see them do that the same here in their 4 years at Bellarmine as well.
Right. So you may be more likely to take on someone who, okay, their times may not be where we'd like, but they've shown significant improvement year after year in high school, and we think they show projectability. They could continue to improve with us.
Yeah. I think that that's super important. And sometimes the background that our various swimmers have come from, some of them come from very strong programs, club programs and high school programs alike, where they've done a lot of training, and they probably will do more, maybe even some instances more training than what they will do with us. And I'm talking about volume, maybe not necessarily intensity. But we've had other swimmers that have come from backgrounds where their training wasn't as intense, volume wasn't very high, and they make tremendous improvement when they come here just because of that leap, that increase in yardage, that increase in intensity. And sometimes they change a little bit physically as well, get a little bit taller, and as I said earlier, get stronger through the strength and conditioning program that we have here.
Right. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. They're 18 to 22-year-olds. Some of them are still growing, and that can definitely have an impact.
No doubt.
So you mentioned Michael Phelps earlier. Are you a big Phelps fan? I assume so.
I'm a big fan of just all swimmers that are successful. He's just the example of the height of where our sport has gone, or one of the best swimmers ever out there. But honestly, I'm always been a big fan of the swimmers that, and athletes in general, that just reach their potential and maybe don't even know their potential. There's a huge number of swimmers that make the Olympics that were not that blue chip type of athlete coming out of high school, but just whatever it was kind of clicked for them when they were in college or moved on. And all of a sudden, bang, they're one of the top swimmers in the world, or they're one of the top swimmers in their college team. And it's only because you've just shown them a few steps along the way that they can continue to get better, and that light goes on. I think that's one of the important things in any coach's job. You want to try to help them have that light go on in their head that says, you know what, I can do this.
Right. That's the ultimate goal for any coach, helping their individuals realize their potential along with having team success. So have you ever been to the Olympics?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Where?
I had a swimmer who out of high school made the Olympic team in '92. So I was in Barcelona. I was not on the staff, but I was with her many steps of the way.
Right.
She was one of 4 swimmers that made the Olympic team that were in high school at the time. There were 3 women, and there was 1 male swimmer. So, but for Megan Klein was her name. She had no international experience. She had never been on any type of junior international trip. So this was a big awakening for her and really for me as well.
Yeah. What was that experience like for you, seeing the sport on that grand of a scale in person?
It was amazing. I had seen the Olympics from afar. In '84, I was in Los Angeles at the time of those Olympics, but it was not as intimate. We were at a couple of events, but not involved intimately as I was in this particular situation. So it was an amazing experience being in the stands with all the other coaches, and actually talking, being able to know what we were seeing and who some of the, outstanding performers were in that particular Olympics.
Well, you've seen so many great swimmers over the years. We talked about Phelps. Is there an event or a moment that stands out to you as that's the greatest swimming feat I have ever seen?
That's maybe. I would say probably the greatest feat that I ever see really is that swimmer who makes that national time standard for the first time, or makes an NCAA cut for the first time, or even if it's just makes a tremendous leap and time improvement. Those are the things that really stand out in my mind. I mean, I've seen some pretty amazing swims, world records broken at various times, but honestly, I think it's when you've worked with an individual.
Yeah.
And as I said before, when you see that light go off, you see something happen, that spark that hits at that right time, and this athlete has this amazing moment of their own. So I think those stand out for me more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So how'd you get into swimming?
I swam pretty recreationally, then summer league stuff when I was a young kid, then got involved in the YMCA swimming and then high school swimming. So, yeah, that's kind of how I jumped into it. But from a coaching standpoint, at the Covington YMCA at which I coached, the coaches needed somebody to help out with the younger kids. And I was, I believe, a sophomore in high school. I said, sure, why not? So I would do a high school workout. I'd take the bus to the Covington Y. I'd work with a group for about an hour. Then I would study and have dinner in this little office that was, hot, humid, chlorine air coming in from the pool. And then about 8 o'clock, I'd get in the water and do another workout with them till about 9:30, and then I'd head home. So yeah, that was kind of my experience through almost 3 years of high school.
You were on a coach's grind at an early age with that type of schedule.
I guess so. I think you're right.
Absolutely. That's outstanding. So was there anything else that you liked to do growing up outside of swimming?
Oh, I think that, my era probably grew up a little differently, but, we were outside a lot. I mean, we were just constantly outside as a kid growing up. But honestly, we grew up doing a lot of biking in our days, and we started to ride bikes on roads when most people were, not riding on the roads very often. In fact, there's a highway 275 that goes around to Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
Before it opened up, we would hop on that and ride huge sections of it before it officially opened up. I don't know why somebody didn't kick us off or throw us in jail for that. But so, yeah, we did a lot of biking. In fact, that's when we decided to ride our bikes across the country, and that's how we ended up in L.A. in '84 to watch the Olympics. We decided, well, let's just ride from Cincinnati out to L.A. And so we were in college. I think I was a sophomore at the time, but we hopped on our bikes and took off. And, about 28 days later, there we were.
You rode your bike across the country?
Yeah. So there were 6 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where'd you stop along the way? You obviously had to stop a lot of places.
Places that you wouldn't want to stop, places you just had to stop. I mean, about half were hotels, sometimes little rest stops, sometimes in the side of some gas station in New Mexico. So wherever we kind of ended up, 75 to maybe 85, 100 miles on a particular day, and throw our sleeping bags down, and there we were.
Wow. So sometimes you slept outside?
About half of the time we were outside, yeah.
Wow. I mean, was that like one of the most memorable, amazing experiences of your life, being able to do that?
It was pretty cool. I mean, we had talked about it for some years doing it, and so I don't think a lot of people thought we were going to,
You did.
including my parents. But I think once we got to St. Louis, they thought, I guess these guys are kind of serious about this. So, we just plugged away and we just spun the pedals, every day and got a little farther down the road.
Wow. Obviously, the entire trip itself was crazy, but was there anything particularly crazy that happened on that trip?
No, but you never know when things are going to happen that are going to kind of help you out along the way. We were in we had just cut through a little section of Texas, in Dalhart, Texas, which is kind of that. You hit Kansas and part of Oklahoma, and then we were almost into New Mexico. But we were on about a 50-mile stretch where there was just no water, nothing. We stopped at this little rest stop, no water, and there was a couple that said, we've got plenty of cold water here, guys. They gave us each a gallon jug. We strapped them to the back of the bike, and so that water helped us get through the next 30 miles. So little things like that just kind of help you along the way. Were probably the more memorable parts about the trip.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point you're thinking, all right, we're going through desert here. There's no water. Like, how much longer is it going to be until we get some water? That probably was a little scary.
Well, water and food. Another instance similar to that is that we left Yuma, Arizona, and we left about 1 o'clock in the morning to beat the heat. So we're riding along, and we popped into some little town in California, and we ran into a guy at a little breakfast stop, and he happened to be, I think, with the Army Reserves, and he had these meals in the back of his car. And he gave us each 2 of these meals. Well, so be it. That particular day, we rode about 140 miles that particular day. And when we stopped, there was nothing there. There was a little gas station, and you could get chips and a Coke, and that was it. So these meals kind of helped us get through that particular day. So it just happened that he came along at the right time.
Wow. That's just a wild experience. And I mean, you see that on social media occasionally, someone walking across the country, biking across the country, but just for 6 guys to decide, hey, we're just going to go biking, and that was a different era to LA. Like that's so cool. Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't know that this conversation would go that way, but very cool. You've always been a great endurance athlete, whether it's biking or swimming.
Hey, you just put one foot in front of the other. You just kind of pedal and make a revolution, and then you just keep plodding along. So,
back to the program. We're talking to Bellarmine head coach for the swimming team, John Brucato. I mean, what do you think the state of the program is right now in the transition to D1 a couple of years in now?
I think that we are it's interesting. We're we have a lot of wide variety of recruits to look at, I should say. Our men's team has grown tremendously over the last 2 years, so we're going to be at 25 men on the team this coming year. When 6 years ago we were kind of struggling just to get up to 15 or so. So we've seen this tremendous increase on the men's side. On the women's side, it's been, I will be honest, a little bit of a struggle. We have some really good young ladies coming in this year, but I'd like to grow a little bit more on that side of things. I believe that in Division I we have all the tools to work with. We've got great support here, and we're continuing to see more resources available to all of our student athletes, and we're continuing to see that opportunity trickle down, if you will, to the swim team as well. So that's one of the things that I have to sell people on here. Even though our facility is off campus, we have a really nice facility to train in and have our home meets in. We have a lot of good resources here on campus for them to be good student athletes and student first. And so I think that those are the things that we have to continue to sell recruits on, is the resources that we have.
Yeah, that answered my next question essentially. Like, if I'm a recruit sitting in front of you right now, like, why should I come to Bellarmine?
I think probably the most important thing is that we care about you.
Yeah.
We talk about the learning community here at Bellarmine. We have a great faculty here that cares about our students. That hands down is probably the most important thing. We have a great coaching staff here across all of our sports that care about our athletes. If you look at these last couple of years, especially going through COVID, you saw a tremendous amount of dedication to our student athletes and just helping them through this process of being on campus when a lot of students were not, of not knowing where their next game was going to be, how COVID was going to affect that, not knowing if we were going to have a meet, all of those unknowns. And we were able to, I think, take them through that. And I give a lot of credit to, honestly, to our younger coaches who have families and trying to juggle that with young ones at home. My gosh, what, tremendous dedication that they showed, to me. I certainly recognize that. I think that was pretty amazing on their part.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how this is my first year. I can tell that the coaches and the athletic community, honestly, the entire university, it's small, it's intimate, but like you said, you guys really care about each other. And it's a lot of passionate people who also want to have success. And I think that's why, the transition to D1 was possible and why it's been successful so far and will continue to be so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, John, really appreciate the time today. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bellarmine head swim coach John Brucato, man of many talents and a man of an awesome trip. all the way across the country to L.A. as well. Thanks to John and all our other guests that have joined us this year. That was episode 16. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Follow us on social media at BU Knights to hear from Bellarmine head swim coach John Brucato and all of our other guests. I'm Jack Kaiser, and Swords Up.